Sometimes it feels like everything is falling apart. It almost feels like the world is on fire and there's no escaping it. We see it in the headlines and we hear it in the chatter and we feel it deep in our bones. Since the fall of Adam, chaos has always been a part of this world. And yet, God is always giving a way for his people to stand firm. Let's dive in.
Lewis Works.
Faith as an anchor. I remember a few years back when I first became a cop and I worked my first fatal wreck. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, that scene was very horrific. It was the first time that I saw a dead body in that way. I mean, I've been to funerals and stuff, but I've never saw a body dismembered like that. I remember when I got the call on the radio, it was a pedestrian versus a vehicle, and the pedestrian got out of his car on the interstate and jumped in front of a tractor trailer, got hit by the tractor trailer, and then he got ran over by a car as well. It was a very gruesome scene. I remember seeing dismembered body parts and pieces of flesh, and his head was actually busted wide open. It was one of those things that, it always stays in your memory forever. You never really forget that. You never forget when you see a scene as horrific as that. And there were many more times that I did scenes that were gruesome, but there was one thought that kind of got me through that moment and for the rest of my career as a police officer. I remember when I looked at that first dead body, in my mind I was just thinking, why am I doing this? I'm not getting paid a lot of money, and I'm kind of subjecting myself to things that most people in America normally don't see. And at that moment, I remembered, doing some self-talk to myself, and I said to myself in my mind, there's many people who do this, there's many officers who do this, many first responders who do this, and they don't know Christ. They don't know Jesus. And here I am, I know Jesus. I know the one who created the world, and he's empowering me right now to be able to do this. That one single thought is what got me through horrific scenes like that. And that's what I mean by using faith as an anchor. Without my faith, I wouldn't have been able to do that and been able to process that in the correct way. Also, when I was going through the police academy, I remember the instructors showing us videos of cops that were brutally murdered. They showed us a ton of those videos. And as a result of those videos being shown, a lot of people who first joined the class ended up dropping out because of the fear of death. And after a while, it kind of wears on you, and you might feel a little depressed after seeing many videos like that. But I remember during my time, I had a roommate, and that roommate encouraged me. And he told me this quote that I'll never forget this quote. And the quote goes something like this: "I'm as safe in my bed as I am in the battlefield." That one quote encouraged me for the rest of the academy, and it even still encourages me today, because I realized and was reminded that God is sovereign. So no matter what happens in life, no matter what circumstances come in my life, those circumstances were ordained by God. And if those circumstances came from God, I have great comfort because I know that God is in control, and whatever happens to me ultimately is going to be beneficial for me, whether if it's good or bad. Focus on what you can control. So what are some of the things that we can control? Well, we can control our thoughts, our attitudes, our actions, our words, our ethics, our boundaries, our habits and discipline, and trust in God. What are some of the things that we can't control? The future, other people's actions, global events, the past, and God's timing of answers. Oftentimes, our anxiety is coming from the things that we can't control. We oftentimes worry about the things that we have absolutely no power to control. We can control the inputs in life, but we can't control the outputs. We can't control what happens. So people often tend to focus on the things that they can't really control in life. They want to focus on politics. They want to focus on what other people do. They want to focus on things that they just simply can't control. Yes, we all have some power when it comes to our votes, but when somebody comes in office, we really can't control their actions. We really don't have power over that. So when you're tempted to get anxious, I want you to remember Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 through 7. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So I want to encourage you to do the following. Don't give in to anxiety, but instead put your trust in the Lord. And be thankful to the Lord and pray to Him about circumstances that you may be tempted to be anxious about. Limit the noise. I want you to create digital boundaries in your life. A lot of our world perception now has been highly influenced by social media and the things that we see on the internet. An algorithm is simply based on the things that you click on. And as people, we're normally drawn to fear-based content. And that's going to drive the algorithm that is placed on our devices. So here's a few pointers to kind of help you out with that issue that you might be having. Limit news and social media scrollings to set times each day. Turn off those app notifications that might draw you back to your phone each day. Anything that fuels fear, anger, or distracts you, I would encourage you to cut that off. It could be a channel that you're following or even a social media platform. I remember years ago, I used to be on Facebook and I decided to go ahead and delete my Facebook account. I did this because there was a lot of distractions and a lot of things that were making me upset every time I opened up my Facebook account. And there was just things that was taking up space in my mind that really had no business even being in my mind in the first place. When I deleted my Facebook account, it freed up a lot of time in my life, and also my mind wasn't preoccupied with a lot of the things that it shouldn't have been. I had less opinions about things, and I was just less frustrated in life after I deleted my Facebook account. People boundaries. 1 Corinthians 15:33. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. I want you to set limits, but not necessarily walls. When I think about walls, can be used to shut everyone out. And I think that's a very dangerous place to be in. You want to set boundaries, but you don't want to set walls. So when you set boundaries, it keeps the wrong influences from having unlimited access to your life. And these boundaries are important because they're going to help you to interact with people from a safe distance. But I don't want you to create walls which just keeps everyone out. We saw around the time with COVID where a lot of us was isolated, and it really did damage to a lot of people's mental health. The worst thing that you can do is be on an island by yourself. That's a very dangerous place to be at. And if you find yourself in a place where you don't want to be around anyone, maybe you need to evaluate what you think about in life. A person who wants to be by themselves, they're probably worried about somebody disagreeing with them. And disagreement is a very healthy thing. You want to remove those bad influences from your life, but you want to replace those bad influences with good influences. You need to pursue godly fellowship and be intentional with the people who are in your inner circle. If you're wondering what kind of person you'll be in the next few years, all you have to do is just look at the people who you're surrounding yourself with right now. I promise you, if you're around lazy people right now, it won't be long before you're lazy. If you're around people who work hard and they like to get things done, it's going to rub off on you eventually. I want to encourage you to not just survive chaos, but to have purpose in the middle of chaos. The world may be on fire, but Jesus is unshakable. So take courage, because the one that's holding the world is also holding you steady, if you're in Him. See you in the next video. If you like what you saw today, subscribe and tap that notification bell. Until next time, stay diligent.
Want more? Watch one of these videos next. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated.